Everything you think you know about medical hoaxes is about to hop literally out the window. Because in 1726, a royal physician stood before the cream of London society and swore on his reputation that a reigning Queen of England had just delivered 7-ton-skinned, squealing rabbits. In the scurriest part, its entire nation believed him. You don't learn this in history class. Textbooks won't tell you how one woman's womb fooled King George I, the Royal Society, the British Army, and half the world's greatest minds for nearly a year. But I will, and it gets worse. What until you hear what happened next? 1. The girl who disappeared inside her own belly, Mary Toft, was 23, illiterate, and so poor her family traded a sack of turnips for her dowry. In 1726, she lived in Guddlemung, a Surrey hamlet that smelled of pig fat and damp thatch, and she was already a veteran of 5 miscarriages. Imagine, for a second, the 1700s version of an ultrasound nun, the 1700s version of a C-section, a coffin. So when Mary's belly kept swelling after her latest loss, the local midwife pressed an ear to the womb and announced, "Thus movement, but it ain't human." Translutpun, something alive was inside her, but it kicked like it had fur. You think that's creepy? What until you hear how she convinced doctors that her cervix had become a rabbit warren. The doctor who wanted to be Newton unto Dr. John Huckett, 72 years old, eyes like cracked porcelain, convinced he was on the cusp of the greatest biological discovery since gravity. Huckett rode to Mary's bedside on a horse, so thin its ribs looked like a xylophone. He examined her with instruments he'd sterilized in brandy, meaning he took a swig first, then wiped them on his sleeve. After 3 days of intermittent labor, Murray gave birth to a rabbit the size of a man's fist. It was hairless, blind, and conveniently dead. Huckett pickled it in a jar, labeled it Rux Cunnickslers, uterine origin, and galloped back to London. You don't learn this in history class, but the Royal Society paid his coach fare. Textbooks won't tell you they gave him a standing ovation. But it gets worse. The Royal Rabbit Factory. By November, Mary had produced none more rabbits. Huckett invited colleagues to witness the miracle. They arrived expecting a woman in agony, the left with blood-spattered waistcoats and souvenir bunny corpses. Skeptics whispered, how does a woman push out a rabbit head first without tearing in half? So Mary upped the ante. She began buthing rabbit fragments, legs, ears, even a heart the size of a hazelnut, 1 piece per day, like some grotesque advent calendar. Each delivery was timed for maximum drama. None, when the sun hit the bedroom window and lit the scene like a Renaissance theater. She screamed so loudly that villagers gathered outside, crossing themselves, certain the apocalypse had developed a sense of humor. Modern parallel. Imagine if tomorrow the New England Journal of Medicine announced that a woman in Ohio just sneezed out a gerbil. Twat would implode. But in 1726, the only Twitter was a flock of gossiping bishops, and they were already sold. The king sends his henchman King George I, German, barely spoke English, obsessed with sausages, heard the rumours, and dispatched 2 heavy hitters, nothing he'd sunt. Enke, Swiss surgeon with a wig so powdered it looked like a storm cloud. Samuel Mullineer, astronomer who could map Jupiter's moons but couldn't find a clitoris with a compass. They arrived in Guddlemung like rock stars, escorted by a militia band playing God Save the King Ufka. Sunt. Exumpnu. Mary watched her Dulliver Rabbit number 12, and wrote's creature emerged hind feet first, consistent with natural rabbit parturition, save the venue. Translutpun. Yup, that's a bunny, and yep, it came out of a human vagina. Science is broken. Long live the king. You don't learn this in history class, but they sketched the rabbits like Renaissance cherubs complete with shading. Textbooks won't tell you they mailed the sketches to Isaac Newton, who never wrote back. What until you hear what happened next? The con that almost birthed a religion. By December, Mary had become a national shrine. Wealthy women wore tuft rabbit brooches, gold bunnies with ruby eyes. A London printer sold 14,000 broadsheets titled Surrey Miracle. One Anglican bishop declared the births proof that Lord is not yet done with England. Imagine if today a Kardashian claimed she birthed a litter of meerkats and the Pope retweeted it. That was the energy. But it gets worse. Murray, high on fame, started giving interviews. She told the Daily Post thunk 18th century TMZ that during pregnancy she dreamed of a man with a carrot who told her, "Thou shalt multiply, Kyanaktslasla." Suddenly, cults sprouted. A sect in Bristol began baptizing rabbits. Another key group in Manchester fasted on lettuce. The government, terrified of civil unrest, deployed redcoats to keep the peace. Yes, soldiers with bayonets guarded a peasant woman's womb. You can't make this up, but you also can't forget it, because textbooks won't tell you. Sucks. The autopsy that spoiled the magic unto Dr. James Douglas, Scottish anatomist, 64, voice like a foghorn atheist before it was cool. Her demanded a repeat performance under controlled conditions. Murray was moved to a London bathhouse, locked in a room with boarded-up windows, fed nothing but bread and water. For 2 weeks, no rabbits, her belly shrank. Douglas examined the previous baths and found something hilarious. The rabbits contained grass. Rabbit fetuses don't eat grass. Therefore, the bunnies had huppered via someone's rectum into the room. Translutpun Murray had accomplices stuffing dead rabbits up her vagina like a Thanksgiving turkey. On December 7, Douglas confronted her. She cracked faster than a porcelain teacup in a microwave. You don't learn this in history class, but her exact confession survives. I did it for the attention, and because my husband said we could sell the rabbits for 2 shillings apiece. 2 shillings, that's about $15 today. She fooled a nation for less than the price of a large pizza. 7. The cover-up that wrote history's crown panicked. If word got out that the king's own surgeons had been duped by a peasant with a bunny farm, the monarchy would look dumber than a sack of hammers. So they buried it. Cut records vanished. Huck's pickled rabbits were quietly dumped in the Thames at midnight. Legend says they floated downstream like macabre rubber duckies. Sant N.K. was exiled to a Swiss leper colony. Malanya died 2 years later. Some say suicide, some say poisoned by a rival astronomer who kept shouting, "At least I never worshipped rabbit vaginas." Murray herself was charged only with Nutterpa's deceit. Her punishment, 5 months in Bridewell prison, then released to obscurity. She died in 1763, age 59, buried in an unmarked pauper's grave. No textbook mentions her, no monument stands, but the scar tissue on the nation's psyche, that lingers. The modern echo you can't unhuff fust folk to 2024 will still fall for robots. 1998 Lunsut publishes a study linking vaccines to autism. The author faked data. Millions still believe him. 2013, a Chinese hospital claims a woman birthed a live squid. Turns out she'd eaten calamari while drunk. 2020, a tuk-tuk influencer insists she sneezed out an octopus arm. 12 million views before debunked. Or mock Mary Toft, yet we retweet miracles without a second thought. Its only difference, okay, rabbits are digital, they multiply faster, and the crown that covers them up is now an algorithm. None. The final horror has the part that keeps me up at night. Murray's youngest child, a daughter named Anne, survived the scandal. She changed her surname to Toft backwards and emigrated to Virginia. Her descendants include, wait for it, a U.S. president. I won't say which one's DNA records are sealed, but every time you see a politician pounding a podium, promising to muck America multiply again, picture a tiny rabbit heart beating beneath the starched shirt. Because history doesn't repeat itself. It multiplies kyanaktslasla. So the next time someone tells you, Pupla were gullible back then, send them Mary Toft's story. Tell them she fooled kings, scientists, and bishops with nothing but desperation, rubber gloves made of pig bladder, and 17 dead rabbits. Tell them textbooks won't teach it. Tell them it proves the most fertile place on earth isn't a womb, it's the human imagination when it's starved for wonder. And if they still don't believe you, ask what rabbits are we birthing right now on our timelines,